The second issue, which to me is just as horrible and needs to be discussed, is his consistent berating and insulting and ad hominem attacks, particularly against women. Whether it's
Give
Kristen,
me a break.
What do you mean give me a break? Kristen Welker this week.
It's Kristen.
Caitlin Walker.
I'm
Caitlin
sorry.
Collins last
I've
week.
worked with Kristen when I worked at the White House.
Will you give me a break?
Say
Have
that
you
you're
no
going up
shame
against
as a woman?
Things got heated on Abby Phillip's CNN panel when Anna Navarro unloaded on MAGA supporter Caroline Sunshine, joined by Charles Blow and Hal Lambert. The debate quickly turned intense. We'll break down the key moments, share some thoughts, and discuss what it all means. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share if you enjoy the video. Let's dive in.
Comes to a head during this interview with NBC's Kristen Welker on Meet the Press this weekend. Welker pressed Trump on a number of conspiracy theories, first about January 6th rioters, then the lie that California's election is rigged. But instead of responding with evidence or proof of any kind, Trump resorted to insults and smears before he stormed off altogether.
You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But, Mr. President,
you know why I got that? Because you have no credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about. I want to talk about Todd.
You have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk
your
about
elections in this country. We're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But, Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Traveled all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
One of the most revealing things about that exchange is that she kept asking for proof. There was no proof being put on the table. And when the president attacks the media, calling them biased, it's usually because they're correcting him on some very obvious falsehoods, like the one that he tried to repeat in that interview, Charles.
Like, the president wants to say this. You have to let me lie without interrupting me. You have to let me lie and not push back on it. And if you don't give me that kind of coverage, then I do not like the media. And the other thing that the president does is that he substitutes himself for the country all the time. I think people have to really be careful when they listen to him, because as an authoritarian thing, when he says that they are the enemy of the country, he really means that they are the enemy of me because they won't let me lie. When he says that people are attacking the country, he really means that they are attacking him. The substitution is a very real thing that happens with Donald Trump in the way that he communicates. And I think everybody needs to pay attention to that.
Why can't Trump take corrections, tough questions? Why can't he put proof on the table of his assertions?
Well, I think you watch the president more than anybody, and I hope everybody at this table would be honest about the fact that the president of the United States takes more tough questions on a daily basis than just about any other president in the modern era. Certainly the last one that we had. Oh, no, I think he should do this two to three times a week. This was a great interview.
Storm out of interviews?
Oh, no, absolutely, because the president's base and most of the country still views the mainstream media as very biased against them. They feel very demonized by the media. They feel very misunderstood.
The reality is that a majority of Americans don't support Donald Trump. Polls consistently show that more than 60% of the country views him unfavorably, meaning most people are not on his side.
By the media, they don't feel like the
mainstream media. That wasn't the question I asked. Why won't he present
to try to
actual proof of the thing that he's claiming?
Can I talk about that? Because that's always the comeback. Where's the evidence?
Yeah, because
the evidence is this.
If you're going to claim fraud, there should be some evidence.
Okay.
That's
the evidence is this. You have a California system that enables fraud to happen easily. You don't have voter ID. You have mass mail-out ballots. You have voter cards.
That's not evidence. That's
time out.
That's just a description of an electoral system.
It's an electoral system that's ripe for fraud.
Ripe for fraud is not fraud.
And then you
have
is
not fraud.
No, but then you have statistical anomalies where you have Rahman, who was third place, was getting 20% of the vote, and then the vote after the election day, she gets 40% of the vote.
So that's a total speculation is also not proof. It is so infuriating to watch people try to make speculation into proof.
It's not speculation, that's data.
That is not data.
We're going to spend a whole segment on the California race in just a moment. So we're going to talk through some of the stuff that you're talking about there. But I actually think that we can boil it down much more simply than this. Trump falsely believes that he won the 2020 election that he lost. When he is challenged on that, he gets upset and he storms out of an interview. Explain that one.
They were talking about the mayoral race in California, and he was talking about the fraud there, the rigged election there.
Okay.
That's what they were
It's
talking
rigged?
about.
You believe it's rigged?
I do believe it's rigged.
Hold on.
Oh my God. We can wrap this show up.
100% rigged.
We can wrap
In
this show
that
up.
exchange,
He
he
turned
also
that
was
into
talking
talking about his
the
favorite
election
obsession,
that
which
he
is
lost in
2020.
What's that?
In that exchange, he also was talking about the election that he lost in 2020.
Well, he talked
You know
about the
that, right?
95%. He also got mad because
So,
he has 90%,
what's the explanation for that?
95% negative press coverage. He's sitting there in a negative press interview.
What does press
What
conference
is
have
a
to do with
negative
the fact
press
that she
interview?
asked for proof of
Here's
fraud?
here's the thing about the president. When he was candidate Trump and they had the primary and he lost to Ted Cruz, the first thing he said was it was rigged. And he insisted that the state officials change the actual results of that primary. You remember that. And Ted Cruz was very upset by that because he called Ted Cruz a liar. That was what, 10 years ago. So to characterize
still calling Ted Cruz a liar
his
because that's
conversation,
not true.
so
I
to
wish we could go back
characterize his
to that time.
conversation without an understanding of who he has been, I think is unfair to the conversation we're supposed to be
And
having
also,
now. He's always done this.
Caroline also suggested that Trump loves taking tough questions, but here is his very real history of not taking tough questions that he doesn't like. Listen.
Your first statement was, are you ready for tough questions?
Are you?
That's no way to talk. It's no way to talk. I think we have enough of an interview here, Hope. Okay, that's enough. Let's go. Let's go.
The only way it's not going to happen again is you have to solve the problem of the presidential rigged election of 2020.
Mr. President, if I'm... Wait, one more question.
The woman that you said was a great doctor in that video that you retweeted last night said that masks don't work and there is a cure for COVID-19, both of which health experts say is not true. She's also made videos saying that doctors make medicine using DNA from aliens and that they're trying to create a vaccine to make you immune from becoming religious.
Well, maybe it's the same, maybe it's not.
Last week, well, real quick. Last
Okay,
week
thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
There's
no.
hold on, because I haven't.
Before we get to the explosive exchange between Anna Navarro and Caroline Sunshine, I want to make one thing clear. Donald Trump has spent years complaining, blaming others, and pushing claims that have never been backed by evidence. The same goes for many of his biggest defenders, who often appear on shows like Abby Phillips to repeat talking points that create confusion rather than provide facts. As Charles Blow pointed out, countless investigations and studies have found no widespread voter fraud. Yet the narrative continues because it serves a political purpose. Whether it's Caroline Sunshine, Hal Lambert, Scott Jennings, Ben Ferguson, or others, the goal often seems to be keeping these claims alive despite the lack of evidence. Hal Lambert even claimed that 95% of media coverage is against Trump, but offered no proof for that number. In reality, one reason Trump has remained so influential is that the media has spent years giving him constant attention. Since the beginning, he has thrived on being the center of every conversation, and that's exactly what keeps him in the spotlight.
Things that I think need to be addressed in the clip that we saw from the Meet the Press interview. The first is him alleging that he didn't lose the 2020 election. Trump and his team filed over 60 challenges in court and lost every single one of them. So there is no evidence that held up in court. That's number one issue. The second issue, which to me is just as horrible and needs to be discussed, is his consistent berating and insulting and ad hominem attacks, particularly against women. Whether it's
Give me a break.
What do you mean give me a break? Kristen Welker this week.
It's Kristen.
Caitlin Walker,
I'm
Caitlin
sorry.
Collins last
I've
week.
worked with
The
Kristen
woman he
when I
called
worked at
Piggy.
the White
Will
House.
you give me a
For you to
break?
say
Have
that
you
you're
no
going up
shame
against
as a
those
woman
women? No.
that we hear
Kristen
him
was
call them
tougher
ugly
on-
and piggy and
Kristen
crooked
was
and
tougher
liars
on him
and
in
stupid
that interview
and bad journalists?
than I have
Have
seen
you
most.
absolutely
That's
no
probably the
solidarity with
toughest
women?
interview I've
Oh
seen
my
him
God, I
face
can't believe you
to
sit
date.
here and tell
He
me to
pushed
give you a
up
break.
against
But
her
in
because
this
she was a
network,
tough
we hear
journalist.
him
Hold on,
not because
hold
of
on,
our
Caroline,
journalist that
let me
she's
let her
not
finish,
fit to
because
be
she
a
didn't finish her
journalist
thought.
because she doesn't smile. How dare you tell me to give you a break? Have some shame.
Why would the president tell a woman that she doesn't smile enough when she's working, asking him a question?
Because he's an equal opportunity offender. And let's not pretend. Let me explain how the
Give
game.
me another example of
Let
him
me
telling
explain
a
how the
man-
game. Let me explain how the game works.
Give me an example of him being equal
Let me explain how the
opportunity
game works because
with that
Caitlin got something
particular
out of that
insult,
exchange too.
Caroline.
The president gets a lot out of having combative exchanges with journalists. His base loves it. His poll, that's why I said he should do 2 to 3 more of these a week. His poll numbers go up. But Caitlin's getting something out of it too. So many journalists have made their careers in this country off of being combative with President Trump, Caitlin Collins included, Jim Acosta, many former people. It is all part of the game. It is all part of the theater. She's tough.
Jim Acosta lost his job at CNN.
Why is it a game
But
to
the
you?
fact that you guys are going to call this a woman problem, Kristen did one of the toughest interviews I have seen someone do with the president. Up
And
to
he
date,
walked
and
up
she
and
deserves
left
credit
because
for
he
that.
couldn't
But
take it.
He didn't push back.
She
She's
flew
a
all the
woman.
way to
He pushed
Wisconsin,
back. It was
left
tough
her and
questions.
did
Grow up.
went to do her job. No, the guy needs to grow up. He's the president of the United States. He needs to grow up, and instead of walking out,
How many interviews did Biden do? How many interviews did Biden do?
And how much did you criticize?
Did an interview.
Okay, Biden is back in the White House, we can discuss it.
The Biden is like a reflex.
Separate
Jesus.
conversation.
It's the truth.
Then just
So is the 2020 election.
Biden, blah, 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 Biden, blah, 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 blah,
One
blah,
at a time,
Biden.
please. Elsie, you were making a point.
I get it. You want the president to look good.
I get it. You want to talk about 2020. I mean, I'm bringing up
he
Biden.
does.
I actually brought up 2015 when he started beginning the lies
did that too.
about talking about how elections have been stolen. I was just letting you know there's a pattern here that's been 2 years long. That's why I brought that up. But to the point I'm trying to say right now is that what do you want this nation to gravitate towards? The behavior that we've seen in which you berate women, or behavior in which you learn how to negotiate with someone that you don't agree with, but you don't need to yell or get up and leave out of an interview.
It's one way that you will berate women because apparently
let me
it's
ask
good
you
for
this,
your
because
image.
I hear you pushing back
That's the thought,
on LZ and Anna and suggesting that maybe this is somehow about Joe Biden, which it's not. Are you comfortable with Trump being challenged on something and rather than defending his point, just simply storming off of
Look,
an interview?
he did defend his point. She kept on and on with the same
How did he
question.
defend it? What did he
He said that he thought the election was rigged. He answered the question.
And she asked for proof, and he provided
It goes back. He talks about what I just said. If you look at the whole election system
What you
in
said didn't make any
California,
sense.
Of course it does.
No, it doesn't make any
listen,
sense.
and
it's not a fact.
I just want to be
It's not
clear.
proof.
I just
It
want
is a fact.
I just want
It's
to
not
be clear.
proof.
We are going to tackle what you were saying about California because there is no proof of what
There
you're
is
saying
no
about
proof.
California. But in this particular segment, I want to deal with the long running Trump obsession, which he also brought up in that interview with his loss in 2020, which he has now tasked the government with trying to validate, even though there's no proof of it. Why is it that when he is challenged on that, he can't answer for it?
Well, look, we know there were, after the fact, we know there were problems in Arizona. We know there were problems in Georgia. We know after investigation.
What were they?
You can't prove that in 45
what
days.
were they,
okay?
Hal? It's been 6 years.
What were they?
What were the problems?
There were problems with the voters in Georgia. They found
Where's the fraud?
voters that were
Where's the
voters
fraud?
that,
There was no problem
How
in
many
Arizona.
fraudulent votes were cast in Georgia? Because I live in Georgia. I want to get you live.
And I lived in Arizona.
That's a lot. Okay, first
And
of all,
I lived in
we can't even
Arizona.
have this
There was
conversation.
nothing
We can't have this
wrong with
conversation.
Arizona.
This man just said that there were thousands of
the more you guys yell there's no fraud, the more likely there was fraud.
No,
It's
the
amazing.
more that you lie, the more we're going to push back on the fact that you are
81
lying.
million votes.
So we're the Heritage Foundation keeps the
81
largest
million.
database of voter fraud.
This is so
of
ridiculous.
anybody.
I want to
They
walk
keep-
off
they keep
this
30.
thing.
They keep.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm going to finish this point. I'm going to finish this
Hold
point.
on a
They
second.
keep 30 years. They've tracked 32 elections, 100 million votes. They have found 39 total cases
That's so absurd.
of voter
It's
fraud.
so
well, you
absurd.
tell-
That's
so that's so
absurd.
you took the Heritage Foundation is
Where's your
absurd.
proof?
Where's your proof?
Where's your
I just cited my source. What is your source?
I got a question for
I
you.
just cited no, because I don't
Wait,
want.
hold on,
I want to know what
Hal.
your source
Hold on,
is.
Hal. You said
What
it's
is your
absurd. Why
source?
is it
Mine is the
absurd?
Here's why
Heritage
it's absurd.
Foundation.
Do you think there's no H-1B visa
Where
fraud?
is your source?
Do you think there's no
You don't-
Medicare fraud?
you don't have
Do you
any
think there's no
source.
home health care
There-
fraud?
and this
Can
is
you
the-
let me finish?
So Anna Navarro's BA Biden line at the end was hilarious. At this point, these debates feel completely disconnected from reality. Honestly, I don't know how people like Anna Navarro and Charles Blow keep their composure. It must feel exhausting trying to have a fact-based discussion with people who seem determined to ignore facts altogether. What stood out to me was Hal Lambert's argument that viewers can decide what's true. That's the problem. Opinions aren't the same as evidence. It often feels like the goal isn't to prove anything, but simply to create doubt. If enough people start questioning whether elections, institutions, or basic facts can be trusted, some may decide their vote doesn't matter at all. I've met plenty of people who genuinely believe these claims, and no amount of evidence seems to change their minds. The conversation just goes in circles. That's why I can understand Anna Navarro's frustration, especially when Caroline Sunshine dismisses concerns about Trump's treatment of reporters and critics. But that's my take. What do you think? Do you agree more with Anna Navarro and Charles Blow, or with Hal Lambert and Caroline Sunshine? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more content like this.